Thanks for tuning into this episode of Mission DeFi. Today's guest is Toschi from Ethereum or EthOS. And there's a lot to digest in this episode, but I hope you'll take the time to sit and think about what they're doing, visit their website, take a look at the information there, because I think within all of the explanations and some of the complexity here, that there is a really powerful system that could do a lot to improve the entire DeFi ecosystem, make it more secure, make it safer, and help developers build bigger and better things on top of core components that this project provides. So I hope you enjoy it. I do want to make a quick note that there is a video sync problem throughout this episode and several other episodes. Had to get a computer upgrade and take care of some bandwidth issues at home, but I think we've have it resolved. So if you're watching on video, you're going to know that my video is way out of sync with my voice. Not much I can do about it at this moment, but I hope you still enjoy. Thanks for listening. If you like what we're doing, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, or if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, click the bell so you get alerts when we're updating, and please tell your friends about what we're doing at Mission DeFi. We're really trying to spread the word about innovation in DeFi and projects that are doing really cool things like EthOS. So thank you very much. Have a great day.
Right now, it is cool and it's powerful, but I think from being powerful to be something that people will see, okay, we have Apple and we have the rest of the, like what's happened, for example, in other industries. I think we have to work hard and finish, because we are already working on something that I think will reshape a lot of things into the industry, especially in terms of the core of what you are building.
Welcome to Mission DeFi with Brad Nickel, where we explore projects in decentralized finance that are innovating and driving our mission of financial freedom forward. Thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, rate, and review Mission DeFi and spread the word by posting a tweet to the show. All opinions expressed by Brad Nickel or his guests are their opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Black Knox, Material Indicators, or any other affiliated organizations. You should not treat any opinion expressed by Brad Nickel or his guests as an inducement to make a particular investment, follow a particular strategy, or become involved with any project. A project being featured on the show is not an endorsement of that project in any way. This podcast is for informational purposes only. Now, here's Mission DeFi with Brad Nickel.
I am excited today to welcome Allesandro Toschi, or Toschi as he says everyone refers to him by. And he is from EthOS, or do you call it Ethereans?
Yeah, EthOS or EthOS, same thing.
Ethereum's operating system. And this is a fascinating project. One of the members of the community reached out to me and said I had to talk to Toschi and get an understanding of what this project is. And so I'm really excited that you could join us today. Thanks so much for coming by, man.
Thank you to invite me. I'm glad to be here.
So tell me first, let's do the standard thing that we do with everybody, which is tell us your background and how you ended up in this world of Ethereum and cryptocurrencies, and why you're in this world. And then we'll get into what EthereansOS is.
Okay, I like a coder. I started coding by my own. I left the university when I was younger, and I was the classic guy that went to the Silicon Valley a lot of time. When I was younger, I went to Y Combinator and other things there, and in 2016, I started to know about Ethereum, and especially I was so excited for the idea of decentralization of applications. I was not a huge fan or in the Bitcoin community before Ethereum actually, because crypto is cool, okay, but I think running application into a totally decentralized way is very cooler than just a cryptocurrency in general. So
Yeah, just something that's just the token. Instead, you liked the idea of it actually functioning.
yeah, I think this is more disruptive than just crypto in general. And so I was like shocked at the time because on Ethereum, actually, since the beginning, what I saw is to build platform as they should be. So platform that are censorship resistant and actually people can use, and actually you don't have to care about like what Facebook will be in the future, what Google will be in the future, because at the end of the day, they are incorporated companies. So there is a board of director. The board of director can change. Countries can go and fight them. And so what we see every day in the Web2, actually, what is happening right now, censorship things.
Yeah.
And so I started to be in the Ethereum community actually, and I started working in 2017, 2018 at like the basic of what is right now EthereansOS.
Wow. Wow, you've been working on it that long?
Yeah, because actually I was more involved into writing stuff. I write at the time. I wrote for HackerNoon.
Okay.
Which was, I think at the time was one of the cooler publication. And I don't know, I love every article from that at the time. So
nice.
in my opinion, was the cooler publication.
That's awesome.
And what was my mission since the beginning on Ethereum was to like try to put the same security layer that the blockchain have to the dApps layer. So to dApps. So because my personal view of Ethereum, and I think the view of my team too, is that if we have all of these security that we have into Ethereum layer 1 and that we have optimistic rollups and these kind of things, is designed to be totally censorship resistant, okay? But the problem is that if we have this level of security, and we pay a lot for this level of security in terms of transaction fees, which we can call also security budget, it's meaningless if we don't have dApps that actually can run and can evolve without relying on the team that is behind. Because at the end of the day, you as a country or anything, you can attack the team. And and so we were focused on this. So the first release we had into EthereansOS was, that is, by the way, this is actually what is happening is in most of the DAOs and in most of the things that we have right now. For example, the team stop working or these kind of things, and everything actually go badly for holders and followers of this project.
Yeah, let me real quickly rewind real quick. So you started working on this around, when did you start working on this?
So it was like a journey, okay, because we started to design not actually EthereansOS, but our mission into it starting in 2017, 2018, and at the time I was more involved into writing because I didn't have the total vision of this. And during this journey, I met most of the people I work with, and we started EthereansOS in 2018. I mean, about writing code, and we released the first version in 2019.
So you had one of those ideas, and I have these all the time, and not all the time, but I have these big ideas that have just percolated in the back of my head for a long time. And I'll scratch out notes or I'll do a mind map about it. Like I have this vision of replacing all social media systems with the RSS protocol. So that's an idea that I've played with for a very long time, years and years, and I've never actually taken action on it. But for you, this was something that you had a concept and you kept thinking about it, but you were also writing quite a bit. And so it wasn't something you were putting full-time effort in, but then eventually you started really applying it in, say, 2018 is that, am I correct in that summary?
Yeah. There are two things that helped me, obviously, at the time. So the first one was to have invested into Ethereum in 2016. So I had the money to just be focused on this and on this
that's awesome
to work on anything else at the time. And this, I think most of the people into the space have this opportunity. And the second one was to, I don't know, is something I totally focused on, not just as a builder, but actually as an investor. So I try to like seeing it, the evolution of Ethereum into this way, because I don't know, for me, it doesn't make sense to have this level of security and use application where we trust actually entities on top of this. It's just a wasting of money if this is the real future of Ethereum.
So that early on, though, you really saw that we were going to have this problem, right? Because it wasn't like there were thousands of DeFi or DApp applications running around in 2017 or 2018. It was a really slow grind for the market. But for you, you were like, wait a minute, we have this problem. These teams are going to create these DApps, and they're the only ones that can control them. They're the only ones that can change them, upgrade them, add functionality to them.
Yeah.
And we're all beholden to those people. And if they decide to leave or get hit by a bus, everyone else that's invested in those protocols is screwed, essentially.
Yeah. And if you read my article, you can find the proof that we actually thought about this at the time. And it was not only me, obviously, the roast coder into our team. So it's mostly into Vaza Power, another cool guy that worked with us since the beginning. Power.it, founder of this since the beginning.
Nice. So somebody else was having the same thoughts as you, that, hey, that we have a problem and we need to solve it. And so you guys said, okay, let's start figuring out a way to solve it.
Yeah, exactly. So when we started building the on-chain organizations, there is a funny thing about it. When we organization, we thought that every DAO system, they had this idea to actually execute code when you vote for something. And we figured out after that was not the standard. So most of the DAOs are actually a place when you can publish a proposal and ask to the team by voting to execute this, which is,
right.
I think, is part of the journey, this kind of approach, but I think is not obviously the hard trend into the long run. So
your expectation was that when things would be voted on or decided, something would actually execute, rather than this being, hey, please go work on this, or hey, send these funds here, or hey, do this, like we do with Snapshot or whatever. Now, your idea was that this would be something that was ready to deploy, and the vote would say, yes, go execute this. And is that correct? Okay, cool. Very cool. I can see why that would have been an assumption at the beginning, because it makes sense. These are executable smart contracts, and so that makes sense.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's just if you want to grow as an ecosystem, I think you have to have more quality products into the ecosystem, like even the token itself for some communities. And so if you have in the real an equity, okay, a huge amount of equity of a company, and you can vote in the board of director, so legally nobody can stop you to do this, okay? Right. And this is the same thing that should happen into Ethereum too. If you have an object, a token in this case, and with this object you have this powerful to actually vote and execute this as a community, as a person itself, because organization can also use it without having tokens, or with more token with different powers that can vote in different things. And so if you can do this, nobody can stop you to execute this change, actually. That was the core idea. And we started with the first version, which was called DFO Hub at the time, because we have this game about DAOs, and we wanted to actually go out from the ecosystem and call it decentralized flexible organization for this idea of flexibility and in execution about things. And the first version was very cool. The problem is that we didn't figure it out a thing into the first version, that actually if you have this whole governance ecosystem, okay, that you can execute code, that is pretty cool. So you can create a proposal which is actually executable code, and you can do it. So it's from a transfer to a swap on Uniswap to, I don't know, building new functions and anything. The problem is that this whole thing can be a real game changer, and it's very cool. But at some point, it's very dangerous that people can vote in something that is code, actually, especially non-coders people. And there was a lot of bad usage of this actually from different people, not in our organization, but in external organizations that use this tool to deploy them. And we design the idea that we are supporting today, that we are doing today, which is granular governance. So you don't have you have this.
Sorry, can you say that again? What kind of governance?
Granular governance.
Okay.
Which I think is actually the future of governance in general. So you have this, we call it root layer, where you can actually execute any kind of code by voting. So the permission you can do anything, but you can also create something we call sub-DAOs, which are actually secure and a small box of things you can do,
like
and you can't execute anything into it, but you can only execute one kind of change, for example. And we have this idea of governance, which is totally granular, and you have different things that people can change, and all of these things can actually be changed with different governance rules, with different tokens, and with different incentives. And this is what we think is actually the future of governances in general.
So would the idea be that then there would be maybe a class of voters who would understand and be able to read the code and understand what it was going to do, and so those would be the people that would be allowed to vote on that? Am I getting that?
It's not only about this, because actually you can solve this issue a little bit by making the code more readable. We already did things about this. The problem is what I called in general people's Sibyllic attacks. So actually, if you have a protocol and you can realistically change some permissions about this protocol, and you have people that can actually spread fake news into a community, and so they can create a disaster. And so this is actually what is happening into governances, which are not only on chain, by the way. What's granular governance do is that you can build an application when you can have the root layer, which can be used by a team or can be more open widely to people. And you can also stop this root layer. So nobody can execute new code, but you build any part of the granular governance, which are secure, and people can only do this change without any breaking. And we also have a cool things on it, which is called surveillance governance. So there is actually a new kind of governance, which is not like I make a proposal and people vote on this proposal, but you have different choices that we use, for example, into the inflation of Ethereum, so the token OS. And when one of the choices reach at least a number of token, you can execute the change directly.
Oh, that's interesting.
Without need to, because another idea is to make human coordination as fast as DeFi is. Because because we have this issue about, for example, proposal into governances, which is highly slow, and we have the evolution into DeFi, which is fast as crazy. And so I think, especially if you talk about money, investing, and these things, I think the governance part should be more faster, and we are trying to also make it this. But the whole idea was to govern protocol by realistically execute this and help people to create this kind of organizations actually, and making the token a real asset that is something more like a share of a protocol than anything else. So we don't support anything about asking the team to do something or these kind of things, but we are supporting anything that is about executing the things. But this is only a part of the EthereansOS thing. So we started with the governance, but we did more than just this.
Yeah, it looks like there's a lot more to it. If you were describing this as a whole, so first of all, I think the governance sounds fascinating. And I want to make sure that there's one thing I understand here. So essentially, what relative to this governance piece and this whole idea of execution, the idea is that components of a dApp could be separated. There can be, as you said, a root layer of function, but then there are components of that could be changed, and those could be executable. I assume, and I don't want to dumb this down too much, but I assume that it can be something as simple as a change in emissions in a token, or a change in some part of a formula related to interest rates or arbitrage or something in some kind of system. But something that intentionally might want to be changed later, and the execution of that is based on a code change, and so the governance vote actually executes that change. Is that the general idea from the governance perspective, that it allows people to actually make decisions and execute changes that are already ready to go without impacting the entire core of the system as it functions as a whole, or the base system?
Yeah, actually, you can build anything on top of this. So both totally democratic applications and both applications that can be grounded into this kind of thing. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So if you were to describe the whole of Ethereum operating system, how would you describe that to people? What, because it sounds like there's a lot here. So is this a project? Do you consider this a project that is the first user of this project are developers, obviously, to build on?
Yeah.
Or and then it benefits the community in general?
Okay, this is only a part of EthereansOS because it's organization. So we have also items, we have also covenants, and we have also factories. But the whole idea is to create this new ecosystem on Ethereum where anything is built on top of factory contracts.
Okay.
So for example, if you and all of the coders have the tools to actually use it as better as possible, because it's actually more secure for Ethereum. So if you go, for example, to all of what's happening to the last 2 years in DeFi, so you have a lot of projects which actually copy the code from, but you as a holder, you as a user, you were never secure because people just copy some ERC, people just copy some contracts, and they deployed to the chain. And so with factories, it's totally different. You have a factory and you just clone most of the code from it, and maybe you can extend if a factory like the factory we built, but you are secure that the basic layer of this contract is the same as anyone else built by this specific factory. And so this adds to Ethereum a level of security and codeless, which will help a lot in terms of design of new project, the security, and also reducing the coding need for everything. So for example, we have covenants into our, which is a great example for this. We built these aggregators, which is not like 1 inch that you aggregate different but actually by your interface, because it's an aggregator designed to work contract to contract. So you can also call it by a contract to execute something without need to have an interface to run it. And so, for example, you can build farming contracts by our factories. And so you can, I don't know, you have your project, you have your token for your project. You can actually create your farming contract with different setups that you can use, Sushi and other MMs, and you can actually set anything. You can build an extension for the logic if you are a DAO that automatically transfer the token needs for the farming to reward users and these kind of things. And the cool things about covenants is that you as a user, you are secure that every project that is there is no way that can be a bug or someone that can steal your money, actually.
Wow.
And so this is another part of EthereansOS, which is not only farming, there are other functions, but is like you have organizations, you have this kind of organization that in our opinion is built for the next startups. And this is the connection from an organization and the financial world. And also we have items, which is a new token standard actually, that both as an ERC20, both as a 1155. Because actually we are trying to push as much as possible the industry standard to the 1155 rather than the ERC20, which is very as a standard. And you can do a lot of cool things. I don't know, for example, in item, you can batch, I don't want to say costless because we have a huge gas in Ethereum cost, but a very cheap transaction, like 20 tokens in just one transaction. And if some MMs will use 1155 in the future, you can actually different tokens to other different tokens in just one transaction without need to do a lot of transaction and pay a lot of gas. So
so you're saying combine multiple tokens into one transaction. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's 1155 standard actually, to have more, for example, with the item standard. So if you build an item, you can also wrap existing tokens into the item standard. But if you build an item, people are secure that your token is actually secure and you have these whole cool things. But every collection, so from every 1155 collection, every ERC20 wrapped anything can be batched. And so you can build this whole new applications in DeFi, which are totally cool. And also, we design a lot for the NFT space, the on-chain metadata. In our opinion, the future of games, NFTs, is not, oh, we put the image, so the metadata link into an object on Ethereum that people can transfer. But it's more, okay, we have this metadata on-chain that everything that happened changed something into the chain. And our graphic or the OpenSea graphic just rendered this information. But the metadata create real values, have to be on chain, and different games maybe they can share some object, but they render in their graphics. So it's not the image on chain, but it's the actual usage of
Oh,
this
that's
object into a
awesome.
game or awesome. Yeah,
That's
or
good.
yes, I do not want to say awesome, but yeah. So that's the thing.
That's very
And so
cool.
we are working on this several stuff for the long run of Ethereum in general, and we believe that the industry will go into this way. So having real application and games and so on that actually are on chain, even if not into the layer one, maybe in some optimistic rollups like Optimism or Metis or Arbitrum, and with on-chain organization. And so that makes, so for example, if the whole team of EthereansOS, I don't know, tomorrow we will go in jail or die for some reason, I don't know, I hope not, obviously, but
I
if
hope
this
not too.
happen, if this happens, so people can just rule SOS, they can create new things that maybe create fees that attach to the EthereansOS treasury, and EthereansOS will survive actually without need of us. And so that's the entire thing, which I think should be the base layer for building on Ethereum. So you should build things that actually are totally censorship resistant, even if in their governance and things, to be actually to create real values into the Web3. And so, yeah, in our strategy, we have this, we really think that the industry will go into this way with the needs of more decentralized, realistically cool stuff, I think. And we are actually working to the perfect ecosystem from where the industry really needs this security level and this kind of quality assurance into the products.
That's great. There's a couple of things I just want to make sure I understand completely. So first, we talked about a granular governance module that allows people to have all kinds of customizations to how they govern a project.
Yeah.
Executable governance that can be very granular and small components of the system, all the way up to what we all see as governance, I assume, but primarily with a focus on, hey, this is an application in adapt. There may be small pieces of things we want people to be able to change, and there may be people with different rights that can execute or make those changes. And then we talked about factories, and factories and covenants are related.
Everything is related because actually organizations are factories.
Okay.
Because our idea of Ethereum is not, okay, there is this standard, so I will deploy the contract, but everything that I use and everything that people build is a factory that other people can clone and customize most of the code.
Nice.
And so you are secure that everything work if there are not bugs into the starting factory, obviously.
So, and that's because you're providing building blocks for the factories for people to build on, to clone, and to add their own functionality on top of that. Is the functionality that someone adds to what you have then also available? So I take your AMM and I add my own functionality on top because I'm using that AMM for some component of it. Is the dApp that I created also now part of the whole Ethereum ecosystem for other people to copy, clone?
Yeah, cloning the code is more secure because you're doing on-chain, and so there is no possibility that you are actually deploying code by your own and maybe making errors or maybe changing something without actually said to people and this kind of thing. So cloning is the best way. It's actually more difficult to develop. So, for example, we were the first project to actually build farming on V3 of Uniswap.
Nice.
It was pretty hard because when you deploy like a contract for your application, okay, you just have your own use case, you just have your contract there. But when you deploy a factory, is difficult because it's like you're creating a platform. So you have to actually think where people will be able to use it to hack other people. So making these security layers into the code and thinking about everything that people should change actually. So for example, into the factories of covenants, if you choose, for example, Uniswap v3 and you want to reward with your own token, the liquidity pool into this specific Uniswap V3 pool, okay? And you can also decide the range. So for example, what is happening that the base of the code, so the integration with Uniswap V3, all of the function about adding liquidity, calculating the reward based on the liquidity, this kind of stuff, they are standardized for anyone and they are cloned. But actually, the fact that you're using your token and you're choosing this specific pool with this specific range for user to enter into the pool is designed by you. And for example, so if you think about a factory, you have this challenge and you also have the security challenge. For example, we were late 2 months since when we wanted to deliver the first version of Covenants because we figured out the first version sucked actually because in the first version, for example, you can build your farming contract, okay, but there was no security assumption that the project actually put the reward, and so you are realistically farming something because obviously you have to think about that the project they use this can be a wallet that send tokens, can be a DAO or an on-chain organization that had the logic to send the tokens. And so we had this security measure that, for example, when a setup, so a specific pool reward from a specific time had to start, it tried to take the token based on the extension that is written. So if is actually a wallet, so it's just that the wallet have to send it before, or if it's by mint, the DAO or the organization have to mint and send, or if they're transferred, they have to send, and the setups can start without already having the money to pay the reward, for example, for this specific amount of time. And this is all of the things that you have to care about when you build something that actually anyone can use.
Sure.
To ensure the security of people into the application.
So this isn't a matter of you saying to people that are building on top of what you're providing that, hey, we're just going to trust your code. This is you guys providing the core components that are secure and that are safe, so that the things built on top of that, people will know they function properly, that they're not filled with bugs, and that there are no unknown exploits to that. Correct?
Yeah.
Or no? Okay, good.
Even if for factories, we are working for a marketplace, so anyone, we will be able to build the factories, and there is like a marketplace for it and a trust layer for it that people will decide what is the best factory to use. But we want to actually push Ethereum to be more factory based. Nice. And and to be as much decentralized as possible.
It's very interesting because I rant a lot about, one of the things I worry about a lot is how poor some of the UX and UI is implemented in the space. And so I've been saying for a long time that I think the UI and UX should be abstracted away either in the wallet or some other type of application, and that the functions that the developers that do such a great job in this space creating dApps should be able to focus on that, and that there be standardized interface elements that can interact with smart contracts, but so that the user doesn't have to switch and move back and forth between things. And also then it becomes more natural for the interaction of dApps because they're operating from one interface and one standard, right? And now you may pick a theme that you like for your particular interaction interface elements. But so for me, this, I think that this actually, I know this isn't the purpose of it, but I think that this concept actually gets towards my rant more, because you're providing the ability for people to create functionality. And
funny story.
What's that?
From 2018. When we started to play with Ethereum, we actually started to try to solve this issue.
Really?
We designed these things we call Robe, which was actually like a beam project, but this was very important for us at the beginning. That actually you can, for example, deploy an entire interface on chain. Obviously, at the time, the gas were Tangway or something. Was not like this. Wasn't like today, and it's worked.
That's amazing.
We used it into the beginning, and we added some part to the first version of the FO Hub at the time. I think factories can help this, because when you build a factory, we add that actually is designed for the UX UI. So the idea is, obviously, this is not something that is available into the day one, but it's something we are adding because it's a huge high challenge for us to create all of these standards together. But the idea is that, for example, you create a factory. When you build the factory, you also build a UI that works with the logic of your factories. And so people can actually already have the UI if they're using this factory for their own application. I think this will be very important, because something that is very interesting on Ethereum is that every time we are going into a DApp, okay, we think, okay, we are on Ethereum, we are censorship resistant, we are secure, and it's not 100% like this. It's crazy the amount of time we are going to different dApps. And if you go to dApps that are deploying into some Ethereum service, you have already a more secure stuff, because you can see actually the EPFS link, for example, for this specific application.
Right.
But we are trusting too much like the GitHub rate of an application that is not actually the deployed code. I think one of the teams that did the best thing about it was Uniswap with the V2, because they have this automatic deploying of every Git they did. And yeah, this is the interface is a huge issue. And also, if you think about having Ethereum for the long run, which is totally censorship resistant from countries, from people, and so on, is the most obvious point of attack, actually.
Of course.
Because, I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Did you hear about Sushi Swaps? Their platform, that's like a launchpad, a token launchpad, right? It's a crowdfunding platform for tokens. One of the developers on that team did the classic, oh, I think this web interface is telling me I should do this, and I will send it here, and just changed the underlying code so that that was sending to the wallet, I believe but the bottom line was it was an exploit that happened on the web page. It wasn't an exploit that happened in a smart contract. And it was, I think risk was about, I want to say $300 million. No, that was a separate exploit. This exploit was only like $20 million, but still it was
only.
Yeah, only.
Only.
Well, we're so used to these exploits now. It's 20 million, who cares? But it was that what you were talking about, which is this is a huge weakness, right? We have users coming in to use these dApps, and now we have this attack vector, which is a web server and a web page and JavaScript and HTML that could easily manipulate what you're connecting to. And as a standard user, you have zero clue what dApp, what should be happening on the back end.
Yeah, there is too much trust, I think, into projects. I think people did this because something that is interesting during this bull run that happened in the last 2 years. There was this crazy hype to be the first to do yarn, to do some yield there, to farm there with crazy APY. And so people they had this FOMO to do things that they didn't
look at anything.
They don't look at anything. And also into the NFT space, because we are talking about, for example, a decentralization, but into the NFT space, sorry for the franchises, but nobody gives a fuck. Totally. And everything into the industry is going well because everything is going well.
Exactly. Everybody's making money.
Everybody is making money. There is no issues from some stable coins and countries. And so everything is going good. But dApps should work even if everything go bad.
Exactly. Absolutely.
So we have to remember sometimes that Bitcoin was a game changer, not because was legal, but because was legit in terms of censorship resistance, and that nobody can attack it. And the whole industry born around this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
no, it got us here. I want to make sure I want to make sure that people understand the value you're providing. I think I have a pretty strong picture of it. But if you were talking to a developer or a founder of a project and you were trying to convince them to use EthereumOS, what would be the benefits to them that you would emphasize? What would it do them? Save them time, save them hassle, make it more secure, function better, whatever you want to say.
That's a good question also, because we are scheduling like a sophisticated way to actually reach project and users, because we are finishing up some deployment things before to try to get a new project. Yeah, I think there are a couple of different use cases into the and I think our strategy will be to try to reach for specific use cases, and you learn everything that there is around it.
Oh, that's cool.
For coders, it will be more good into the future. Actually, this is a hint from what we are building, but I think people already know it, even if I don't say what we have in schedule.
Because
but
already
it's
people
so
figured it out.
for me to. But yeah, we are working into a lot of tools also to deploying on Ethereum, from testing and for everything. That we are actually using it. So we are able to build in this level of technology because we are actually using our own tool we made into this year's testing.
Nice.
So for example, there is Multiverse, which with your own browser, you can create an Ethereum fork in your browser using every wallet and smart contract to interface with your application. And it's the same as the real layer one of Ethereum. So you have actual addresses and contract, and you can do anything to test your application. And all of these things, after build like the core of this, we are working to build like the best experience for developer to actually go and build on Ethereum and be focused more on factories than blockbuster contract in general. And also we have the NFT space with games, which I think item is very cool, both in games and both in DeFi. And there is something we are releasing now, which is DEX. So you can wrap existing NFTs into an item that is the collection. And so you can use your NFTs like to to actually add liquidity into Uniswap, because people can wrap, batch wrap anything very quickly. And you can use in governances and things. So actually, if you are an NFT community, you don't have to build another RC20 just to create a DAO, but you can actually use your existing NFTs to vote into the DAO actually. And also Covenants is like one of my favorite application, because you can actually integrate your business, your protocol totally secure, 20mm totally in a secure way without need to risk, because much of the hacks that happen in DeFi is because there is a big issue into Ethereum. So we don't have coders. So there is a very few coders into Ethereum, and this is why some people becomes like a rock star on Twitter, okay? Because there are few. And there are a lot of people that are actually good in copy and paste some contracts, but there are people that actually know how to work on Ethereum. It's very difficult. And there are a lot of things that you can learn only by building. And so the issue is that I think in DeFi is very important to actually don't build your integration with Uniswap to farm, because maybe you don't know that you have a spatial transfer for the USDT because it's not an RC20, and so people can lose money. And you don't know that, for example, you need some specific transfer function when you transfer it, just to be sure. And but use this, that there is all of this experience into this, and you can just deploy with zero coding cost. And I think is like a better way, because I think people should be more focused into their own product and not into the building the integration with the DeFi space. But this should be like a base layer you already have because you are on Ethereum, and so that's why Covenant is cool in this case.
Nice. For me, if I were launching a project, I can see here that number one, I gain more security. So for me, the benefit is less hassles, less worry, safer. Number two, faster time to market, because you're taking care of so much of the base layer that's also being secured. So I feel secure, and I feel like I can realize my vision faster because I can focus on the thing that actually makes me different than just building all the base of it. And I also don't have to inherit the copy paste of some other bad, crappy coder in doing it, because I'm getting something strong. I'm getting a foundation from you. And then I'm getting mechanisms for managing and governance that are unique relative to what the rest of the market's doing. So to me, it sounds like an incredibly powerful option to utilize EthereansOS rather than starting from scratch or doing a copy pasta, right?
Yeah, it's been 3 years of smart team that doesn't take a day, but start building every day. So that's what's happened. Yeah,
that's great. How many people on the team?
That's a good question, because funny thing is that during this DeFi bubble, in general, building teams is very difficult, because there are people that think that they are a rock star just because they are able to deploy RC20. We saw a lot of things, okay? And so our team is growing and go down like the price of Bitcoin. So there was a period that we had a lot of people into the team, and there was a period that we just fired a lot of people after a testing period. So it's very difficult to say. We are
on any given day, it could be more or less.
Actually, we are 15 that actually are, and we are. There was a moment we were in 25. There was a moment we were in 10. Yeah. I'm counting also the communication team, so not only developers, because 15
Good.
Developers is a lot into the DeFi space. But yeah, I'd say, and right now we are finishing up this release. That contract already released, but we are adding all of the function into the UI, because right now we are finishing up, like, so for example, covenants that I tell you can, covenants.eth.link, because in the beginning, these three application, item, covenants, and organization were separated, and we are putting all together with all of the UX things to actually have or interoperability between them. So it's easy to create an organization and actually create an item that is already into it, and all of the things into one UI after the deployment of the new version of governance, which was our last line. And so we are porting covenants into this new UI. We are deploying DEX. We will deploy the organizations UI, which right now you can go and you can use the EthereansOS organization, and you have all of the tools that are already there. But to create your organization, we are taking a few time to build the UX for this and for factories. So you can go to items, you can go to these kind of things. So you can create your organization if you call the contract.
But you're going to put a UI around it to let people utilize it.
Yeah.
Nice.
And after this, we are taking like a phase company behind the project to actually having a lot of new recruitment, because we have an actual 2022 and 2023 roadmap, and we have to do a lot of things. And so we will try to grow into the team, but also we decided to grow a lot as much as possible after this bull run, because it's financially not sustainable what's happening during this bull run. So you have, for example, I don't know, because imagine you are a coder, okay, for example, and you are into an ecosystem where there is a newbie that can give you 30K just to copy an RC20 contract, okay? So it's financially impossible to actually building a team into it. What was really hard, because most of the people just thought, okay,
take the easy money. Yeah,
because working on EthereansOS is a challenge, because you have to have a lot of technical skills, because we are not working into making a contract, but we are working to making a factory, an entire platform for everything we work. So it's a huge amount of complexity every time we do something.
Sure.
And testing all. And so
it's a more mission-based development role, as opposed to the kind of throw something out there and get rich. And it requires people, I think, that are want to be intellectually challenged, but also want to make, I get this impression, this is a very mission-oriented project, right? So everybody wants to make money. Everybody wants to be comfortable and be wealthy or whatever. But at the end of the day, you're actually trying to make Ethereum better. And you're trying to make it better for people to develop on it and to use it. And it requires a level of commitment that's not necessarily the same as the level of commitment you get in a bull run, because a bear run gets you people that are just serious about being here.
I'm a huge fan of bear market in general.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan. I saw more. I remember the Ethereum community after the 2018 down. And it was so cool.
It's people that really want to be there. That's the motivation. How have you been funding all of this off of your early Ethereum? And if I ask a question that's none of my business, tell me it's none of my business. But have you been funding this all, or have you guys had investors, or how have you sustained keeping 15 people working all this time, I guess? And again, if it's none of my business, tell me that.
That's a cool question. So actually, with Ethereum since the beginning, we had these things we call fixed inflation. If you go to the top, for example, the OS, or at the time Beetle, there was not an ICO, there was not like a private, and there were not like tokens for the team. So we had them in the beginning, but we burned every of this because it's worth it. So we don't need this. There is the inflation of the token, with that people can vote the yearly percentage and they can change. And from this inflation of the token, this part is sold to, some part of this go to farming, some part of this is sold for ETH, and it's go to this part of the organization we call the splitter. And so the splitter had this thing that actually send a part of it to the developing team, a part of it to the grants, because we have this huge, cool feature which is called delegation. So if you are, for example, into an organization, you can build your own organ delegation that can be attached to different organizations, and you receive grants from different organizations based on how supporters you are. So
Wow.
if you have more, so it's kind of like a lot of things there. And so to sustain this, and there is also a fund into the EthereansOS organizations that this fund, for example, is designed to buy every trimester. So every time the money are splitted, to buy 5 tokens. And there is a weekly sale about from 1 to the 5% of the token that they hold, like to incentivize people to just rule this fund, not for the short run, but for the long run, and also dividends farming. So you add liquidity to EthOS, and you are actually earning Ethereum based on the earnings of the entire company. Because also with covenants and all of the application, there is a percentage of fees that go directly to the public organization, and this is a part of the revenues. And so it's one of the first organizations that actually earn money.
That's amazing.
So it's not just to manage money, but to earn money.
That's amazing, man. So that's how you've created a self-sustaining, as long as you have people participating, but you've created this self-sustaining thing that's actually keeping the organization running. Is that stuff documented in like the white paper, how all this functions, or on the website? I really want to take a dive into it if it is.
Yeah, you can go to the documentation. We didn't start with the white paper because actually the white paper way of building on Ethereum is something I hated since the 2017. Because actually, when you start a project, okay, you can have the idea, you can have the tech, but you don't know actually what will happen into the future. So we decided to don't do an ICO or these kind of things, but actually starting as an R&D project. So we started totally as an R&D project. We never say, buy Beetle, buy OS, so buy our token, because that's an R&D project. So we are trying to solve this issue. We don't know exactly what will happen in the future. And so this is poor R&D. This is how we started actually.
Nice.
And so from the financial part, the technological part, and so on and so forth. And we were very clear for people on this. So you know that you are entering into a community that is like this. Right now, all of this R&D, which an actual product, is something that is actually something, okay, which is useful and thing. But in the beginning, it was just poor
just R&D. It was a lab. Yeah.
And so that's why we didn't have a white paper, but we have all of the documentation about how it's work. Yeah.
So this thing's just evolved into what it is today, and what it's going to be in the next release is from some basic, the fundamental ideas that you had, but really you've just evolved it from R&D into product.
Yeah, it's been 3 years, so
it's amazing, man.
What's
amazing is you've been done all this, and you've made it this self-sustaining thing. It's incredible.
Yeah. We also have to think about that when we start, we were, because something I really want to see into the Ethereum. So this is not just a mission or but this is like my mission as a person on Ethereum. I was writing in some of my articles into the past that I think you like this because most of the things are actually happening. Is that something that was very difficult for me when I was younger was that, for example, innovation before the crypto world was a Silicon Valley centered place. Okay, I can say to you a lot of math about why it's actually impossible to create a real unicorn from countries like Italy of this kind of stuff, both for financial terms, both for lobbyists, certain things, connections, and all the things. And what I see on Ethereum is that you have this all new financial world. So if you build things from Italy, or if you build things from the US, or if you build things from any other country, you are in the same financial world. So there's no some boomers in your country that decided your financial world is less competitive than other ones. So which I think is very bad for the future of humanity in general. And so it was hard in the beginning actually because we were Italian, so we don't have these like huge connections with VCs and this kind of stuff. And we also decided to don't have VCs into the public protocol because, I don't know, we wanted to build, I think is what we did was cool if you want to build a startup for the long run and not a blockbuster project. Because if you think about the inflation is, okay, we are building something. And so if the things will go further, the team and the whole project reach money and continue to work. And so you have to demonstrate to people that you are actually working on something that is cool into the run. Like it's more similar, even if it's not, to the classic private, to the classic fundraise. And so you as a project, you are more into the holders part. So most people that actually do an ICO, they just take the money and they do things, but they don't actually realistically, don't have the right incentives to actually building something. So I actually think that this method of having the money for a project will become bigger in the future, also for regulation and AML things into countries, because it's actually mining. So it's not, I think it after this bull run, when there is more people that actually want to build things into the long run, so they are secure that they will there to stay. I think this idea of a fixed inflation, it is idea to use inflation both for a financing project, but in time, not at the day one, it will be something cool, I think.
How far off are you from the next release?
Yeah,
I don't need a specific date. I never ask a developer for a date, but
we stopped the specific date because we actually didn't respect any specific date, but
a general timeline.
A general time.
End of third quarter or
no, because these are more UI thing, because we already tested the smart contracts part of this release, which was DEX. So I think it's very near, probably this month, covenants and that thing, and the organization interface, it's maybe in 2 months from now. I think 2 months and a half. It depends from a couple of things we are working on, because it's not only interface,
the top secret things.
Yes, the top secret things that will make the whole things cooler. And so
I always seem to time my interviews with people like when they're just on the cusp of being able to tell the top secret things. I always seem to have that interview timing for that. I should have waited for 3 weeks to interview you, because then you'd be able to tell me the secret things. No, it's okay. It's cool. I understand.
No, but with me, it's easier because actually this happened also when I DM with some guys on Discord, that actually when I'm building something in EthereansOS, I'm so excited and I can't wait to see into the real world. And so it's very easy to make me leak,
to make
something.
You spill the beans. I don't want to put I don't want to put you in a position of spilling it so the rest of the team is mad at you at the same time. So it's okay. I'll keep pushing. Would you like Ethereum to be like a primary component of what people utilize to build on Ethereum? Is that really where you'd like this to end up?
This is a huge question, because I know you want to say also layer 2s and these things. So you talk about the Ethereum layer 1 as the main. That's a huge
just
question.
In general terms, do you see what you're building having the potential to be the way?
I think the whole idea is to create this. I want to see this new Ethereum. We call it as a joke in the beginning, the new Ethereum order, which was the idea that when you use Ethereum, you don't have, because I think most of the project and people are focused on we have to reach mass adoption into Ethereum, so we have to make gasless, which I think is not the case for my personal opinion. I think the way to reach real usage of Ethereum is like defeating most of the assumption and fear that people have using dApps, like security, decentralization, is things like a critical standard that, if you are a good guy, so it's not an issue for you to remain in this standard. So you don't need a more centralization part of this. And I think that this will really change what Ethereum will be into the future, because right now it's the far west. I think, and it's cool that it's the far west. I think this is the cool part of Ethereum too, but it will be more, I think security should be one of the base layer of Ethereum in general. or scrutiny the security actually. And if you refer to your question to layer 2, because I didn't understood if it was actually on Ethereum layer 1 or it was on layer 2 side.
Now, for me, I guess it's a consideration, but that actually wasn't the gist of what I was trying to get at. What I was really trying to get at was for you is Ethereum, for you, do you have a vision of accomplishing something that big that what you've created becomes the primary layer for the things that get created for Ethereum? Do you feel like it's powerful enough that it could be the way that everyone builds and grows and governs together?
Yeah, that's okay. Now I get the question. This is a cool question. Right now, it is cool and it's powerful, but I think from being powerful to be something that people will see, okay, we have Apple and we have the rest of the, like what's happened, for example, in other industries. I think we have to work hard and finish our internal roadmap for 2023, because we are already working on something that I think will reshape a lot of things into the industry, especially in terms of the core of what you're building.
Nice. So I think I got a yes there.
Yeah, there is a yes. Obviously, we are.
I don't think let me make sure that I don't think people would see that as boastful. I think people would see that as mission driven and goal driven. I almost feel like you're feeling like you have to be humble about this, but I think you've spent 4 years of your life building something that you think is incredibly important to growing this ecosystem. And you wouldn't have done it if you hadn't thought, hey, we can make this all better.
Yeah, I think actually I'm here excited every day because I see this.
Good.
So yes,
good.
So the reply is yes.
Was there
100% yes.
Awesome. Was there ever a time in the 4 years that you thought, I'm fucking crazy, or this is not going to work and I should stop doing this?
I think I literally need some day off. Okay, so that's literally the case. But I think most of the founders on Ethereum, when they see meme coins that go to billions, they may say, "Oh, I didn't understand anything about life." But
I shouldn't laugh, but I totally get it. Yeah.
But yeah.
So there are days of frustration, but
yeah, there are days of frustration, but I think it's happened to most of the people that maybe are moved more for the vision and the culture of Ethereum than money. But yeah, I didn't run a project in 2017, so I don't know if they felt the same at the time. But imagine, for example, the Uniswap team in 2017, where there was this huge bubble and they deliver Uniswap without a token. How they can say, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's insane, man. Some days I'm so excited about what's happening, and then other days I'm so disappointed in humans. And it's quite I think it's such a conundrum. It's so crazy.
I don't know if I'm crazy in saying this, but I think that industry had, during this bull run, had a pre and after Elon Musk moment. So I remember that most of the project that people followed before Elon Musk shielded Dogecoin hard was for the tech.
Yeah.
And after the Dogecoin shilling, there was this huge normies into the ecosystem.
Right.
And obviously, when there are normies into the ecosystem, there are people that try to actually take their money because they are normies and they don't know anything about crypto.
Sure.
And so there was a pre and after Musk moment.
I think that makes sense. I think there's logic there. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of logic to that. I think it makes sense. And the interesting thing is we go through this over and over again, right? Like the normie rush comes, and then there's a group of them that just give up and leave. And then there's a group of them that turn into us, or at least have an appreciation of what's happening. And so I think it's like part of the process. I think you're absolutely right. And I think that happens. And I think you're right that people take advantage of it. I always tell people all the time, look, this is money. And at the end of the day, there are going to be greedy, cheating, slimy people. There are going to be people building really cool things. And there are going to be people that are getting taken advantage of, and people that are trying to keep them from being taken advantage of. It's just,
Yeah.
money since the beginning of money. Yeah.
The same thing that happened into the financial industry in general. So there are
Of
people
course.
that did maybe more value investing for companies that actually have values, and the people that actually follow trends and hypes. And so I think that's happening anywhere.
Are you an Ethereum? Would you consider yourself an Ethereum maximalist?
Oh, that's the question of 2020, actually. I'm not an Ethereum maximalist. I'm a decentralization maximalist. So in my personal opinion, every piece of code, even if it's $1 billion piece of code or $20 piece of code, if it's not designed to be censorship resistant in this specific industry, is a wasting of time.
Nice.
And so that's my personal.
I love that.
For now is Ethereum, and I love optimistic rollups. I think they have this right security layer for as a layer 2, but I focus on this because if we don't have this censorship resistant, I think Web 2 is faster, cheaper, and so on. So if we have to trust the entity in general. So
nice. No, I think I've never had anybody, I've heard somebody say before they're a decentralization maximalist, but I really liked your explanation of it, that if a piece of code is not meant to be censorship resistant, then it's a waste of time. I think that's an awesome guiding principle, right? Whether it's a layer 2 or an alternative layer 1 or a different DApp or a different whatever, that if that's the guiding principle, that should make everybody happy. Really, theoretically, that should be the principle. Why else are we here?
Yeah, actually, I think if you don't have this as a base layer, Ethereum is just you're spending a lot of money in transactions for something that you don't really have. So there are a lot of people that think that spending into transaction on Ethereum is a bad idea, but I think it depends from the security you want for your assets and for the application you use. So if you want this, if you want to stay outside from, I don't know, from censorship from countries and these kind of things, I think I'm happy to spend some bucks into gas fees for this reason. So
that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. All right. So I ask everybody that comes on the show, who is someone in decentralization or Ethereum or DeFi or whatever you want to label it, that you are inspired by or you think is absolutely critical to the future of where we're going, or somebody that you think is just innovating and you're fascinated with what they're building and creating?
Yeah. So at the moment, I don't want to be Vitalik, because unfortunately, not into the Ethereum direction or in the Ethereum developing, but we need Vitalik right now because it's one of the few people that actually have in mind what decentralization is, what's important. Right. And so Vitalik is, I think, is critical for now, and it's totally critical because he is incredibly cool, both into the designing architecture and both into teaching to people about this design, and so it's very important, I think, Vitalik. And also, some teams that I really love into the space, for example, are the ENS team. ENS, I think is so cool, actually. And I don't want to take a position on the Brantley thing. And
no need.
and I love the Uniswap team, and that's my favorite team. So
I
Uniswap,
think those are
ENS,
awesome.
And the core Ethereum.
Those are great answers. And I love that you gave a good reason for Vitalik, right? I think people say out of, I got to say about Vitalik, it's Ethereum, it's DeFi. And actually having an understanding of what he is actually trying to do and how he's guiding it, I think makes a big difference. It's why he's important.
Because I'm not running like a blockchain, because I'm more into the DApp layer of things. I think Vitalik is a person that is very uncorruptible, because imagine you are working into a blockchain like Cardano or these kind of things, okay? And you see these worth billions, okay? And maybe countries and things that try to have a part in this. And Vitalik was very uncorruptible from all of these things,
right.
Focusing into what is needed to achieve the goal. And the problem is that I don't know how much people can actually be like Vitalik in this situation.
Yeah, it's hard. It's amazing the level of ethics and sincerity that you get from someone like that. It's incredible to me. And I think it's partially just a love for what he's doing, that allows him to be that way too. But there's also this passion for trying to change things on a bigger scale than even just Ethereum, which I think is interesting. I love when he puts something out and writes something and it expands my thinking and makes me reconsider things that I thought I had answers to previously. So I think those are great choices. Is there any, where should people go to learn about EthereansOS?
Yeah, I think on EthereansOS.it at the link, you can find all of the links to the documentation,
Put them in
the
the show
explainer
notes.
website before to go into the app. And I think maybe the best ways to go on Discord and just ask questions. We have this community in Discord, and actually everything happened there.
Thanks, man, so much for your time. I appreciate it. This was great. Really fascinating. I'm excited about what you're doing.
It was very cool talking with you, by the way.
Thanks, man.
And
thank you.
And your podcast is it's very cool. I right now I'm coming back to finishing the last episode.
Nice. Thanks very much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.